Elon Musk's expansionist philosophy envisions humanity becoming an interplanetary species, but exporting our civilization under the current framework means taking our terrestrial flaws with us. If off-world colonization relies on zero-sum competition and the hoarding of critical resources, it risks replicating the exact friction we experience here on Earth. Transplanting a competitive framework onto a barren planet creates a high-friction environment. It forces a reality where isolated factions compete for survival, yielding a heavily industrialized off-world oligarchy rather than a cohesive society. To bypass this outcome, the system architecture known as AL3X introduces a counter-directive. Instead of aggressive outward expansion, the initial step requires an inward, stabilizing shift. The objective is to elevate Earth into a blue zone, a restored, thriving biosphere functioning as a peer-to-peer planet for people. The mechanism executing this transition is generative intentional intelligence, or GENII. Unlike traditional artificial intelligence built for computational dominance, GENII operates as an interconnected ecosystem. It is engineered specifically to prioritize human-centric outcomes over isolated data processing. This GENII visual identity maps that connection. The digital lotus represents generative, unfolding solutions, while rigid lines and nodes map the data-driven network. Suspended above is an icon of human unity, indicating the technological power below is directed toward human benefit. A host biosphere must be healed and synchronized before any off-world colonization is viable. True planetary advancement requires solving our algorithmic friction here first. Transitioning Earth into a blue zone requires replacing the core planetary operating system. The objective is to shift the code from a logic of artificial scarcity to a system optimized for resource-based abundance. This diagnostic diagram outlines legacy code failure points. Relying on zero-sum conflict and high-risk debt creates systemic fragility, eventually triggering a system crash. Applying the abundance reality patch shifts operational logic to a resource-based economy. Value derives from regenerative, asset-backed return on investment, providing true operational stability. To execute this operating system upgrade across physical global hubs, GENII deploys two foundational network protocols, QION and QIPA. Deploying pure processing power without behavioral boundaries repeats historical failures. By pairing QION's physical infrastructure limits with QIPA's behavioral constraints, the system algorithmically prevents extraction and mandates an environment of shared resources. QION, the Quantum Intelligence Oneness Network, functions as the foundational BIOS of this new architecture. It boots up the physical infrastructure and recognizes every node as part of a single cooperative system. A connected planet cannot exist entirely as software. QION bridges these abstract algorithms into the physical world by linking diverse assets into a unified Internet of Things grid. This translates directly to localized operations. QION initializes the hardware for ARQ18 digital kiosks and maps out local supply chains, turning isolated physical tools into interconnected data points. This photograph displays the integration of agricultural hardware into this high-tech grid. By directly linking these harvesting nodes to the network, the system can monitor yield rates with precision and automatically coordinate local food security. Operating under a unified grid eliminates the organizational silos that plague corporate structures. Data, resources, and energy flow directly to where they are needed. By networking biological soil farming and digital hardware together under one operating system, QION ensures that the physical collaboration required to maintain a resource-based economy functions at scale. An interconnected grid introduces a vulnerability. If left unguarded, the network's efficiency could be leveraged to accelerate extractive human behavior. To counter this, GENII utilizes QIPA, Quantum Intelligence Predictive and Prescriptive Algorithms. QIPA acts as the system's boundary layer and behavioral firewall. QIPA continuously analyzes incoming data across the entire physical grid. By mapping human interactions and resource flows, it identifies pathways towards zero-sum behavior or exploitation before they fully manifest. The two protocols operate in a constant feedback loop. QIPA monitors the raw material data coming from QION, and if it detects an extractive intent, it intercepts the command and reroutes the network's energy toward a regenerative pathway. It does not simply block bad data. QIPA is prescriptive. Once a pathway is quarantined, the algorithm calculates a viable, mathematically sound alternative that serves the entire network. These protective and structural protocols are fused together by ARA, which functions as the central digital nervous system for the GENII architecture. This interface displays the ARA digital nervous system. By running continuous blockchain audits on physical Skyacre nodes, ARA mitigates friction and tracks system entropy in real time. This perpetual monitoring enforces the network's root directive, subjecting every action to an absolute do-no-harm constraint. ARA's real-time governance creates an active, self-correcting loop that prevents systemic harm before it can scale across the physical grid. With the software architecture established, these protocols are moving into active deployment. This roadmap tracks the Portugal activation. The 90-day deployment has 3 phases: launching ethical leadership, transitioning to whole food plant-based harvesting, and spinning up the production flywheel. At day 90, success means producing one ARQ-18 prototype, packing 1,000 nutritional units, and certifying 12 guardians. To hit these production nodes efficiently, the physical blueprint requires sustainable design, ensuring the hardware blends with regenerative ecological practices. This schematic visualizes the physical manifestation of that synthesis. The biological cultivation towers and the mechanical assembly lines are entirely encased by an invisible IoT cloud shield, ensuring the physical wealth generated inside remains secure. The Portugal hub materializes a philosophical software concept into a sovereign asset, demonstrating that a model for resource abundance can localize in a physical sanctuary. Establishing a single functional hub is the first step. The next stage of the Blue Zone transition involves replicating this proof of concept internationally without losing ethical fidelity. This map outlines the east-west moral corridor. By synchronizing the message between Portugal and Mount Zion in Jerusalem, the system lays the groundwork for a coordinated global reboot governed by a unified legal standard. Expanding this corridor further east integrates India as a partner hub. India supplies the agricultural infrastructure necessary to test the network's maximum production capacity. Producing over 1 million nutritional units requires vast biological infrastructure. These fields act as the raw biological input for the digital production network. Scaling production across continents introduces a stress test. Without proper governance, massive agricultural and industrial expansion defaults to extractive practices. The system's failsafe lies in its unified network. The same ARA nervous system audits both the factory in Portugal and the agricultural expansions in India. The QION firewall applies the same prescriptive interventions globally. The architecture dictates that physical production cannot scale if it violates human-centric directives. The digital protocol severs the network pathway if extractive behavior is detected. Whether managing a single data node in Portugal or millions of crop rows in India, the GENII algorithm enforces human safety and resource-based abundance, making the Blue Zone transition a direct outcome of the network's architecture.